Law serves as a vital building block for the conduct of business. Contracts provide guidelines for future behavior as well as confidence. They provide a basis for future actions, such as when a payment will be received and when a product will be delivered. Without laws, our society would fall apart. Just like with conducting business in writing and in real offices in the past, the internet is another medium for solving business needs, so it needs appropriate laws and regulations as well. Government institutions create laws, then make sure everyone adopts and follows them, and justice is served according to the law. Laws need to be ethical from creation so that justice is served fairly. When it comes to technology such as the internet, it gets complicated when you're trying to enforce a law between a person who physically lives in your area and another person who lives on the other side of the world. How can your government enforce a law on a person who lives in a different country where there are completely different legal systems? Some things are pretty straightforward. Stealing from other people is considered a crime basically anywhere. You can report the person who steals from you to your government, and they will justify you. However, other crimes are more obscure. Most laws are applied depending on where you physically live. In the United States, you're allowed to drink at the age of 18, but you're not allowed to purchase until you are 21. In Iceland, however, you can drink basically at any age, but you cannot purchase an alcoholic beverage until you are 20. Let's say I'm running a brewing company and I'm selling on the internet. Which laws should I follow when I'm making a transaction? Do I follow the law according to where I live, here in the United States, or my customer, if they live in Iceland? These are the kinds of questions that users, administrators, and creators of technology systems have to answer, as well as the governments all over the globe. This is why we create policies. A policy is a plan of action to avoid negative events. The intent of a policy is to achieve a rational outcome when addressing a situation. In the example earlier, my brewing business could have a policy where I chose to follow the law that is most strict. Although I can sell to a 20-year-old according to the laws of Iceland, I will not do that because my law says I can't sell it until they're 21. Although I will lose some money in not selling that and going with that transaction, it is safer to me to follow this policy for legal reasons. Okay, so what are the policies for using the internet? Here in the United States, a public policy is that you first have to pay for the software and hardware, but then after that, you are basically free to do anything, as long as you aren't committing a crime. So who enforces this policy? In general, an administrative agency is the first line of defense when enforcing a policy. This would include the IRS, the FCC, the EPA, the USDA, and more. If you commit a civil violation of their policy, something that isn't considered criminal, then you would be contacted by the appropriate agency and given instructions for how to rectify your situation. An example would be the IRS telling you to pay your taxes. If you aren't happy with how the agency is treating you or your situation, you can garner a hearing. If you still aren't happy, you can take it up to the court system, the next level. This works at both the federal as well as the state levels. Above all, people value privacy the most. We don't want anyone to get a hold of your identity and pretend to be us, and access our bank information and take all our money. Thus, all of these laws must take into account confidentiality levels of our information. How does this power work? Federalism is a principle of government where the power of the courts is distributed. Here in the United States, we have courts on the federal level and the state level. The state you live in may have different laws from a different state. The state government has certain powers that allow them to do this. The federal government has power over things that happen between the states, such as trade and military operations. The government in the state of Colorado does not have jurisdiction over a rule breaker located in California. Therefore, an issue like that would be elevated to the federal level and they would take care of it. It's kind of like going to your nearest Starbucks for a good cup of coffee. They have an organization system through multiple different states, and they might serve different sizes of cups of coffee in different places, like New York or something. But in general, it's all the same Starbucks. In terms of the internet, there are special conditions, mainly the massive reach of the internet reaching every part of the globe. It poses a massive challenges for governments of each country to coordinate and communicate about the laws they create and enforce. Another is that the internet has differing norms of behavior that you would find in any single real-life location. However, it is agreed that certain kinds of behavior online will cause harm, such as cyberbullying. As our technology progresses, we have to create and adapt new laws. Sometimes our laws are a little behind because they were created after the invention of a new technology. How can a law be created for technology that doesn't even exist yet? And it hasn't even been proven or made an impact on society. Although we can try to be proactive with our lawmaking, we essentially are testing and refining it as we go, because unpredictable events always pop up where no one expected them to be. Unfortunately, courts are not a speedy or efficient process either. When it comes to non-criminal matters, things can drag on for years and years. When it comes to technological advances, the courts are not involved in the public policy process from the beginning, but instead are often at the tail end of it. Whoever first invents a policy for the company, such as the business owner for a brand new social media platform, should ask themselves questions that may guide their ethical policies. They should ask, what is the direction of our technology? Is it heading in a direction that is ethical? What factors should we take into consideration as we develop our technology? There are 4 guiding principles with which we can use to analyze our current technology. First is framing. Consider the problem this technology was meant to address. Is it framed properly, or are there essential elements left out of consideration? How could the problem be reframed to include as many relevant elements as possible? The second is the vulnerability. What factors contribute to the vulnerability of certain populations due to this technology? What besides humans may be made vulnerable by this technology? Third is distribution. What structures, social, institutional, or physical, would you suggest putting in place for examining the distributive consequences of this technology? Lastly is learning. Describe any lessons that you think are going to be learned from the current use of this technology. Are there barriers to this learning being conveyed to decision makers? Let's say you are a software developer. Your company asks you to write a program to let users shop on your website, and they want you to make it so that they follow all the rules as they do it. Indeed, with you in charge, it is impossible for users to shoplift from your online company. As you're sitting at your desk writing your code, as you're doing your job, suddenly you realize the code you are writing will govern how the people on your website will behave. Your software code is much more effective at constraining what people can and cannot do online than the legal regulations behind it. The creator of a system determines how easy it is to break the law. Thank you for listening. That is the end of this video. In the future, I will be exploring the influence of the legal system on technology in greater detail, particularly with regards to jurisdiction.